Yes, ladies and gentlemen, episode 106 of the Journey's anime titled A New Show, the Team Rocket Undercover Kingdom radio just dropped, and this is a Team Rocket focused episode where they begin a radio show to recruit other Team Rocket members. How will it go? Let's find out. Giovanni has given Jessie and James the task of recruiting even more members to Team Rocket, so they decide to do a radio show to try to do that. Their first episode of the radio show, Jessie takes it over, and there's some meta jokes here regarding the show's intro theme that's probably not going to be translated when the episode comes out dubbed. However, because both it's a new show and the show isn't that great due to Jessie just incessantly rambling the whole time, it's no surprise that later they find out that the show had 0 live listeners and 0 listeners after the fact. However, this doesn't get them down. Instead, they try and fiddle with the format. Even on the second day though, they aren't getting any listeners, so as the narrator, who's also strangely involved in this episode tells us, they keep tweaking and tweaking the format until it eventually starts getting popular. And one of the things they do is start using nicknames and get rid of the entire trying to recruit Team Rocket aspect of the show. Instead, it's more like a variety show where they talk about things, do mini games, answer questions, and overall just interact with their listeners. They do this by having James give out some bottle cap collections as memorabilia if your question gets chosen, as well as premiere balls. This starts making them really popular around the Kanto region. They get a bunch of different types of listeners like Ren, Professor Cerise, Nurse Joy, Officer Jenny, and we even get a surprise appearance here by Brock. By the way, the Brock appearance happened because apparently this episode was in production around the same time as the Legends Arceus special. So according to the director, since Brock was there, they were able to use him for this episode. And the episode ends with the narrator telling us that later, Giovanni yelled at Team Rocket for forgetting the main goal of the show, which was to recruit Team Rocket members. However, every now and then, they'll still make their show because they're ultra popular and they enjoyed it, and it ends with another meta joke of Jessie being annoyed that the narrator was talking over her, and they force him to read some of the scripts as we end the episode. This is a really fun episode. There's a bunch of things that happen in this episode that I didn't really mention here. However, and I really do believe this is an episode which I can't really do justice. You really have to just watch it to enjoy the humor presented here. But there are a few things I want to touch on. First of all, one of the segments in Team Rocket's show is that people ask them for advice. And one of the questions they get in this episode is of a parent whose child has recently gotten a Pokemon, and he feels like he's being neglected now for that Pokemon. As we find out later, that happens to be Cerise. Maybe I'm looking too deep into it, but this really tells us about the dynamic of Chloe and Cerise's family. We knew that Chloe was a bit different from the rest of her family, but the idea that Cerise feels like she's looking out for Eevee more than him is both sad, but also shows how far Chloe has come in the story, because at the beginning of the story, she didn't want anything to do with Pokemon. There's also some dialogue between Cerise and Ren here where they're talking about older technologies, in this case specifically the radio, and I feel like that dialogue was for the older fans. They reminisce on how the radio used to be before the internet, using your antenna to find specific stations when the signal is low, and also how the radio is really used to make connections all around the world. It did feel like something that the writers really wanted to show, which is how far the Pokemon world itself has come. Looking back at some of the older Pokemon series now almost feels foreign because Ash is using things like a map. He doesn't really have a phone. The only way he's able to contact his mom and Professor Oak is through either landline or the Pokemon Center. They even talk about faxing here, which, while never done in the Pokemon anime series itself, feels like such a foreign concept in the modern world. I thought that was a really interesting conversation because it provided a view into not only the evolution of the Pokemon world, but also our own world. And finally, the ending of the episode is also heartwarming. Ren also sends a letter to the radio station to Team Rocket where he asks that they wish well to 2 kids aiming for their goals, one of whom is to be a Pokemon Master and the other who wants to catch all Pokemon leading up to Mew. We're obviously talking about Ash and Go here, but Team Rocket don't know that, so they wish with all of their hearts well to the kids. They talk about how the bigger the goal, the more worth it is, and the more exciting it is to go after. We know that they aren't truly evil, something if you watch the Pokemon show for a long time is pretty clear, Because even after they get yelled at by Giovanni, they continue the radio show occasionally because it's something that they enjoy doing and they know their listeners love listening to. Jessie, especially here, comes off likable as her usual overbearing desire to be an entertainer really pulls the other two through and injects energy into their plan. I think it was awesome to see. Overall, while this episode didn't have any crazy battles or even complex stories, I think this was a fantastic episode. This really allowed Team Rocket to be Team Rocket. It talked a little bit about the dynamic in the story itself, but it also allowed us to show how far even the anime itself has come with the talk of the older technology. This is a really fun episode, especially for older fans of the anime and Team Rocket fans in general. I'd give this an Ultra Ball. I don't know how well this episode is going to be translated when it does eventually get dubbed, but if you get a chance, watch it subbed. It is the best way to do so, especially as the director himself said that he gave Team Rocket the ability to ad-lib their lines and say whatever, and then the animators animated around that. Jessie's voice actor especially really leans into this, so you get an authentic experience that you definitely want to check out. That's probably not going to be available in the English version of this episode. The next episode is an absolute focus on Yamper, one of Chloe's Pokemon that's been out of the limelight for so long. It also looks like it's going to be the return of Suicune. Go Suicune if you don't remember. I can't wait. But anyways, that is it for our review of episode 106 of the Journeys anime. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe. In the comments, let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can follow me on Twitter at TheRealPDGaming, and that is it. I will talk to you guys later. Peace.